Hey guys, welcome to Kevin's Films and Home Theater. Today we're going to do the 2025 home theater tour of my home theater. So stick around. If you enjoy this kind of content, before we get started, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I want you guys to understand where I'm coming from. What was my ultimate goal here in my theater room? I have always loved commercial cinemas. When I was little, going to the movies, all the way up to even recently. Unfortunately, there just aren't many great movies nowadays, but still, I still love going to the Dolby Cinema and enjoying a really nice sound, really good picture, very comfortable atmosphere. And what I've always wanted is to bring that same feeling to the house, to my home theater. So when you're looking at stuff here, or what I'm about to show you, you'll probably understand, hey, listen, why the selections that I made make maybe a little more sense, knowing exactly what I was going after. Let's start with room dimensions. This room is approximately 14.5 foot wide by 25 foot deep and just over 8 foot ceilings in this room. So let's get started up here in the front of the room, my front stage. I'm going to kind of stick up here with everything and then move my way around the room. So first thing, I'm going to talk about the screen. This is a do-it-yourself spandex screen. I bought the fabric from, I think it was Spandex World. I bought the white spandex fabric that goes in the front. I bought the black spandex fabric that goes behind the white of the screen in order to give you that contrast. For this kind of screen, which is still, the gain is very low. It's probably about 0.65, 0.7, but I do have a bright enough projector to really kind of compensate for that. And we'll talk about that projector a little bit later on. This is approximately 140 inches diagonally. When I was first doing this, I was struggling to see, obviously based on my sitting distance, how big I wanted to go and where I wanted to put my side speakers, my left and right speakers. And I wanted to keep them just right outside of the screen in order for really to make this work out well. This is the size that I came up with. It is very immersive from where I sit. I'm about probably 11 feet, 12 feet from the screen, from where my head sits to obviously the front of the screen. The sound quality coming from the screen, or the screen allows to come through, is unbelievable. At first, my center speaker sits right here. And at first I had the speaker actually about a foot behind the screen, and it really sounded kind of echoey and something was off. I brought it up right about 2 inches from the screen and it's never sounded better. It's fantastic. So the screen, I do have borders for the screen. These are covered in velvet. They really control the overspill really well. When I'm zooming in the image to make sure that it fits, if it falls just outside on the velvet, it really does kind of disappear. One more thing that I did is I did continue the velvet all the way up to the top of all the way to the ceiling, and I did drop velvet all the way down. Now, if I was watching a Cinemascope film, there aren't, in this case, or I don't feel there are, because they're all kind of, they go away with the velvet, gray bars at the bottom or gray bars at the top. Like, you don't see that whatsoever. It's completely gone. It's just a true Cinemascope image, which I thoroughly love. Now, if you have content that likes to expand between 2.35 and 16:9, some of Christopher Nolan's movies that have IMAX in between and mix in there with some of the regular film images that he has, it does obviously oversample on top and bottom. Sometimes it can be a little distracting, but I really do enjoy the Cinemascope as a whole, and I'm not willing to trade that look for a 16:9 screen, because if I did that and then I was watching a 235 film or Cinemascope's film, I feel like I would have to mask the screen somehow from top to bottom to make sure that I don't see those gray bars, and that gets expensive. One more thing that I did is I ordered a little bit extra of the black spandex. You'll see it here on this side of my room, and also on the other side. That's actually covering my left and right speakers. That's just one layer. So again, it really acoustically does not affect my speakers. So let's talk about the speakers. Right now, what I have back here, and I'll put some pictures so you can kind of see it behind the screen. I've got 3 PSA MTMs 210s, the matte version of them. So I've got one center speaker right here, vertical. They're all identical. I've got my left and right here on the corner, right up to the actual fabric. And here's my other speaker right on this side. Now these speakers I went with because, again, as I'm trying to go after the commercial experience, if you go to a commercial theater, what you find up there is you find speakers with compression drivers. You find obviously pro audio drivers as well, your mid bass, your subwoofers for the most part. And that's what I wanted. It sounds great. I came before this, I had Klipsch speakers. Those tend to be very bright, which is kind of weird because they didn't have compression drivers. These are very easy to listen to. They're not fatiguing whatsoever. They're dynamic. You can hear a pin drop and you can just hear an explosion. It's really very well-made speaker, and the price I thought was a fantastic speaker. Something comparable to this, if you're looking at it, would be maybe like a JTR speaker, but you're likely to pay 2 to 3 times more for a JTR speaker than you are for a PSA speaker. Now, these things are very, very loud already as they are. In my room, I don't necessarily listen to reference room level because it'll just blow my ears. In this case, I try to keep it probably about 80 dB, 83, 80, 84 maybe max peakness, and that is very comfortable for me. I do get that very immersive, loud commercial feeling when I'm watching a film. So these speakers do produce that. They don't go below 70. These speakers are pretty, I mean, they're not meant to go low. They're not meant, even with the 2 10-inch drivers, they're not meant to give you that bass feeling. They're just meant to be able to go really loud. And they're very sensitive. So a couple of watts gives me exactly what I need in my seating area. As we stick up here in the front, let's talk about the subwoofers. So I'm also sticking with a PSA family. I have got 2 EV1813Ms. Those are 18-inch drivers. They are vented or ported in this case. They are super loud. They are more than what I probably need in my room. Right now, the dial, the gain on the back is really turned pretty low. They blend really well here. If I'm watching anything, whether it be Ready Player One, whether it be Godzilla -1, whenever there is a low, heavy note, deep note, this subwoofers will hit you. They measure really well in my room. Overall, my first row really gets a pretty decent frequency response throughout. They go to probably about 11 hertz in my room. These guys have a pro audio. These guys have a pro audio driver, I guess is what you would call it. Again, kind of just going after that commercial cinema feel that I talked to you guys and I'm going to keep talking about. You know, when you go to actual commercial cinema, they don't really go below 35 to 30 hertz. Obviously, they have a massive room to pressurize, and that's likely not going to happen. They're very loud. They sound fantastic. If you're ever looking for that nice chest punch feeling when you're watching a film, it's all about SPL. You got to drive them up really loud. But these speakers really do give my room an exercise. They've been fantastic. Honestly, they're end game for me here in this room. I don't feel the need to upgrade to anything else. In terms to give you they have a ton of power. These things have an amplifier that is 1800 plus watts, and they can peak up to 4300 watts. I mean, these things will produce a ton of sound. One thing to note though, I did notice that when I came from my PB2000 Pros, SVFs, to these guys, they're a little more sensitive. And they did bring that whole, like the humming sound, I guess is what they call, when you may have either an electrical outlet in the same ground, or they did cost a little bit of that. Now I don't have them turned up all the way. I don't need to in this room. I don't know how it would be if I had to turn the gain all the way up. You may hear a little more sound. I was able to just to turn them low enough where I need them to, and be able to turn them up and down from the receiver. And it's really worked out great. So I just wanted to be honest in regards to what I also experienced in my room. So guys, we're gonna move now and talk about my surround speakers. I've got 4 identical surround speakers throughout. One thing to keep in mind though, these are gonna be different brand than what I have in my front stage. I'm very particular about the fact that you do not do, if you're gonna spend your money, spend it in the front stage with your left, your center, your right, and your subwoofers. I'm assuming you keep them in the front or wherever you keep them in your room. When you start going to the surround sounds, I I've not experienced a big difference whether you have the same speakers throughout your room or not. In this case, I've always had mismatching speakers, but this is an upgrade from what I had before because I still had the clip speakers here before. These are the Krix 1470. These are commercial grade speakers, which you would find probably in a small auditorium. These guys can project 60 feet. So I have absolutely no issues in here trying to keep up with the sound. They are loud, obviously. They've been calibrated, so they only need to go as loud as they need to go. They are ported. They have a port at the top. The connections for the speaker wire is on top too as well. They came with a low or a shallow profile bracket for me to hang these on. They're about 30 pounds. They will go as low as about 50 hertz. So when I first bought them, I put them on the ground, I hooked them up to a receiver, and I played some music. And one thing I could tell is like, man, these guys go low. And you can tell they're pretty big. So they've got a 1-inch soft dome tweeter driver, and they've got an 8-inch mid-bass driver, I guess you would call it here. Really authentic commercial speakers. They really do bring a nice sound into my room. I've never felt a scene where you've got surrounds, front, everything activated in Atmos, where I'm distracted by a different kind of speaker on the surrounds or maybe my Atmos speakers. These speakers will give you that look too. When you walk in here into this room, it gives you that commercial cinema theater look that I was going after. So a lot of people like to put them in walls, and that's just not what I was going after. I'm okay for the front of the room to disappear behind a screen because again, when you walk in the theater, that's what you see. In here, I'm actually perfectly okay seeing, and I actually do enjoy seeing my surround sound speakers sticking out on the wall. Like I said, these guys are pretty big. Really good price. I think I got these for about $175 a piece. When you try to buy residential, they're selling you more of a look. Granted, they're going to have the components and they're going to try to have a great sound, but they're also taking a lot to account the look of it, the construction of the speaker itself, which adds a lot more cost to a speaker. Now, these guys are just plain good old theater speakers. So I don't know if that helps you make up your mind for your next one, but if you do, don't be afraid to look outside the box and be able to get something that likely will fit your budget. My room acoustics throughout the room, and I'm going to give you some footage of all the acoustics that I have in the room, but I want to start up here in the front. So this is on my left side. This is on my left wall of the room. Originally, I first did the whole mirror test where you go by, somebody's going to help you. You basically walk a mirror through the wall, and as you start seeing the speaker or the tweeter portion of the speaker, you mark them up. You put a little blue dot wherever they go, first reflection, second reflection, third reflection. And what I did was, I don't know what I was thinking at the time, kind of new, started getting into it. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do the whole first, second, and third here in one bucket. And this has actually been a massive sound upgrade in my room before and after. If you have not treated your room and you're buying super nice speakers, super nice equipment, know that your room will be about 50% of what the sound really is going to come out. If you don't have any treatments, you're going to have a lot of reflections. You're going to have a lot of hard time maybe understanding dialogue, locating objects if you're watching something in Atmos. So it is probably one of the biggest things, and even the first thing you probably should do in your room when you're getting started. One thing that I do probably want to work on is maybe getting a little bit more, something a little more hefty cloud in terms of absorption up above my front row, maybe even second row. It's right now I've got very thin, it's got a little air gap on the back, but they come from Amazon. They're kind of thick. They probably absorb more on the high frequency, but I would doubt they get anything below 400 hertz or something like that. So in terms of sound absorption behind my screen, I do have also Save and Sound right between, here's my center, all the way on top and all the way throughout the screen. As well as I've got a lot of insulation around the speakers, the side speakers as well. Hey guys, I want to talk to you now about my 4 Atmos overhead speakers. These are mica 8-inch driver speakers with a articulating tweeter. They're all facing sort of this bubble in the center of my seating area. I didn't spend a lot of money on these. Still, I think to date, a lot of movies just don't take full account of the upper speakers, and you are going to get some sound out of it. And if you're mixing, you're probably going to get more. But for the most part, I didn't feel like that's an area where I had to spend $200 per speaker. I think these guys were maybe $50 or so from Amazon. I went ahead and built a box. This is a do-it-yourself box. I did it myself to sort of be able to get a speaker more tailored towards aiming to the seating area. It is open, so I guess you would call it more like an open baffle speaker or box. Because this room is very dark. Right now I've got extra lights in here as I'm filming this. Honestly, if I didn't have these lights on, I only have 3 lights. When you're watching a film, you do not see anything in here. They disappear. So the boxes are probably not the prettiest boxes you can find. That was never the intent. And I don't really care about showing it off as much as, does it function well? Does it do what it needs to do? And it does. I started with 2, then I went with 4. They're a good addition to the room, but I'm not gonna say like they've made a day and night difference in my room. Again, it just depends on the film. Some films are gonna have more activated Atmos speakers. Some others just don't. When I first was working in this room, was pre-wire for a lot of this stuff, but I wasn't really, my home theater journey has gotten a lot more intense probably in the last 2 to 3 years, and I've learned a lot. And I wish I probably would have pre-wired the house a different way for speakers. In this case, a lot of the speakers that you see out here, because I've added them after the fact, even though I had pre-wired for a 5.1 when I first did this house, I've had to end up hiding cables throughout to make it work, because they're really more just you can see the wires. But once you paint them, again, it's so dark in here, you don't really see it. So anyways, so here we are. This is my rack. There isn't much, just a couple of shelves. Honestly, this is very simple. I don't have an external amplifier for all the speakers. I just have a small external amplifier for the rear surround speakers. This is about 50 watts per speaker. It is audio source from Amazon. Fairly cheap, does what it needs to do, and it sounds just fine here in this room. In terms of the brains for this theater, what I have up here is the Marantz Cinema 50. I bought this back probably in February. I went through a few different receivers trying to find which one I wanted to upgrade to. I came from Onkyo RZ730, pretty old receiver. It had the Onkyo room correction, which really wasn't great. It was okay. I mean, it did its job again, but I wanted to step up something in this case with the with Odyssey, try something a little bit different. This does have the opportunity for me to also download Direct Live and bass control. I think that's like $600 overall if you wanted to upgrade and get rid of the Odyssey, or not get rid of it, but be able to use Direct. This thing is got enough power to power everything in my room. As I told you, most of the speakers that I have, as I told you earlier, they're pretty sensitive speakers. And based on the distance from where I sit, like for the most part, this thing probably won't pop out more than maybe 10, 12 watts per speaker to generate the sound that I need in my room. So I've not had the need or the want to get an external amplifier for my speakers. I don't know if it would make much of a difference here. I'd love to hear your story. Maybe that has been something that when you've added to your room, it has really brought everything else alive. And not just in terms of volume level calibration, but just in general, like Kevis, there was something here that really changed when the external amplifier was added. So I don't have anything against them. I just don't have really a need for it in my room. In terms of sources that I have got a Panasonic UB420. Difference between this one and maybe the A20 was the A20 has Dolby Vision. Projector does not pass Dolby Vision, so this does have sort of a internal tone mapping a little bit that it does use. It's actually very good. Image comes out really well from here. I do have my Roku Ultra LT 4K source. So basically what I get, it's either streaming, whether I'll watch Prime or Netflix. I don't have a ton of different streaming apps, or from Blu-rays or 4K discs, which is what I prefer. It's what gives you the better sound. It's what gives you the better image overall. I had the shelf out there in the room, and everything's pretty open here. I don't see the need to enclose it. I don't have a ton of stuff, so I've never felt the need to have a AV rack. Not sure in the future if that changes, if I add anything on here, but that's what I have right now. And one more thing to bring in mind, this right here is my mini DSP. Well, it's my UMIC 1. And if you can download REW on your computer and are able to connect it to your receiver, when I calibrate my room, I'm able to go back and always double check exactly what is done to my speakers, what the frequency response is of my room, and especially great when you're trying to make sure that you're finding out the best locations for your subwoofers throughout your room as well. So the Epson LS12000, my last video was that I had upgraded from the Epson 4010 home cinema projector to the Epson LS12000. Really great projector. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. It is super bright. It is very sharp. HDR comes alive for me now. Before I didn't have the same feeling when I'm watching movies. This guy's a fantastic projector. There's a ton of reviews out there if you want to go look at them. Again, I left a short video probably 2 weeks ago on my impressions so far using the Epson LS12000. So this is the guy powering up on the Spandex screen. So guys, just real quick, my seating, I do have a Tuscany Valencia home theater seats. When you first buy these things, they're not as soft as you would imagine when you're thinking of the leather. In this case, they take a little bit of break in. I've had them for about 3 years now. They've worked well, except the controls, the lighting has stopped working, which is not a bad thing because it doesn't distract me when you're looking at the display and the little button to press, but it doesn't work anymore, as well as obviously the bottom lighting here doesn't work either. Not sure why. I probably need to reach out to Valencia, since I did pay a ton of money for these seats, to maybe guide me or troubleshoot it and maybe fix it, at least have something that works as it should. The USB charger still works, but again, just the lighting components don't work anymore. For the most part, after sitting here 3 years, they've kind of kept up their shape really well. This is just only the front seat here. The back seat, I actually bought those probably back in 2008 from American Signature store on clearance. Those things look brand new still. You wipe them down, they've held up really well. I've got 12-year-old twin boys and an 8-year-old boy, and they've given those seats a test for their money for sure. And so far, yeah, there's a little maybe chocolate spill here or smudge there, but they've held up pretty well. So those are my rear theater seats from American Signature store. Again, those things still look great. You can see there my recording mic as we go through it. And here's a view of the Valencia cedar seats here in the front. Just cable management, not the best. Again, when the lights are out, you really don't see anything here. There's the rear speaker. I do not want my speakers to be, if I wanted to go back, there's an indentation in that wall, and I actually ended up building a small 2x4 sort of hanging way to be able to bring that speaker out so that it would align with the other one on the other side. Guys, this is my riser that I built, about 16 inches tall with a little step in. Build that out of 2x4s. I had some leftover carpet. And again, just some film, some posters off to the side, and my editing bay or computer here on the side. Really kind of doesn't stick out in my room, so works out really well. Hey guys, thank you so much for sticking around in my home theater tour. If you have any questions, if you want me to talk about in depth anything that you saw in this tour, please leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for sticking around, and we will see you on the next one.